Hey guys, welcome to YouTube. I got stabbed in the hand today by my boyfriend, so I am in a good mood. Um, well, actually, I just finished... what's it called? Ultimate Spider-Man, the 161 issue run by Brian Michael Bendis, and... I don't know the... I don't know the artist's name, but... First of all, I got a new subscriber. I don't remember your name for once, so I want to apologize for that. It was a little earlier, but thank you. And I have a new poster, so that's cool. Web of Venom. Found it at a comic shop for free, so it's up there now. Well, as you can see, I am up too late again, and it's time for another 2 AM Rambles. Like I said, I just finished Ultimate Spider-Man, and I thought I'd talk about that. It is a legendary book. Everyone's probably heard at least tales of it, you know. They're the ones who are actually ballsy enough to kill off Peter Parker. They're the ones who were ballsy enough to redo the Clone Saga. They were the ones who changed the history of Venom, even. And I loved it. I know I'm not adding much to that, and I'm probably... 10 years late when it comes to saying I love it, but I do, and I wanted to go ahead and spread the information while I could. Brian Michael Bendis did a great job on portraying Peter as, I'd say, human, actually. Yeah. He was constantly scared, constantly getting his ass kicked, and it was fleshing him out. He always learned, he always admitted his mistakes, and he kept the regular Peter Parker, you know, whining because everything in his life is hell. As everyone is, I've been a Spider-Man fan since I was probably old enough to watch television. I was born in '02, and my first introduction to the show was the 90s cartoon, actually. And I watched that up, and it was one of my inspiring factors for getting into comic books, really. That one, Batman the Animated Series, and then, yeah, I probably mentioned that one, actually, in my last review of Batman 50. But Ultimate Spider-Man and Ultimate Comics Spider-Man made me relive that. It made me feel like I didn't waste the Spider-Man that I cared about, that I spent years of my life watching and loving. And it made me miss it, honestly. It made me miss the old feeling I got when I watched those cartoons when I was young and impressionable and didn't critique everything I watched or read or seen. And I read all of these in 6 days. That's how quickly I tore through it. I finished it about an hour and a half ago, and I just let it sit there because it was the death of a character I loved. And I wish there would have been a follow-up issue with everyone dealing with it, but it was a good death nonetheless. He was fighting his biggest villain, the Green Goblin. He was fighting to protect Aunt May. He was fighting to protect Mary Jane. He was fighting to protect Gwen Stacy, who'd recently come back from the dead because comics are weird. And that was really it. It was Peter fighting for his life, and as a 16-year-old, wearing long johns would do, inevitably failing. Brian Michael Bendis took that fear of failure that Peter's always had, that's been indoctrinated into everyone who's ever read him, and made it become a reality. He died viciously, cruelly, and happy about it. That's That's what I liked most, actually. I liked that he was happy to have gone out fighting. It really felt Peter Parker. And I'm not just here to talk about the death of Spider-Man. I'm here to talk about the entire run. I want to start off with the original artist, and like I said, I don't remember any artist names, but the artist that did issue 1 through 111, I'm thinking it was Mike Bagley, but I could definitely be wrong. He was spectacular. I loved the artwork, and it just felt... There's my washer. Cool. It just felt like an Ultimate Spider-Man book, and that's what I came to relate to it for the first 111 issues. And the arts that took over after, and I'd like to say the art from issue 1 to 133, the entire original Volume 1 run, was pretty good. All of it was pretty good overall. It took a drop in the 2-issue Spider-Man Requiem series, and it took a major drop, in my opinion, in issues 1 through 15 of Ultimate Comic Spider-Man, and then Ultimate Comic Spider-Man 150 through 160. All of those I felt were awful in art. It was horrendous, in my opinion. The faces were weird. The overall, landscaping of everything was hideous. I didn't like anything to do with art when it came to that, and I feel like that actually subtracted from all of the experience. I remember I almost stopped reading for a while, and like I said, 6 days I was tearing through it. Then I got to issue 1 of Ultimate Comic Spider-Man, and I loved Spider-Man Requiem. With J. Jonah Jameson realizing his mistake, I adored it. And then it immediately went to that, and I just almost... It started 6 months later, and it had Gwen Stacy dating Peter, which didn't make any sense, really. And my biggest problem is it still wasn't explained. It was explained that Mary Jane suddenly broke up with him. They hadn't talked for almost 6 months, and Gwen and Peter were going out. And that was really it. That was really all the explanation we got for a 6-month gap, and that really bothered me. And like I said, it almost made me slow down, but I tore through it, and I got to, I would say, probably... I'd say the Tainted Love issues were when I started getting back on track. The 6-part Chameleon story, was it Chameleon? Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was Chameleon story. And that one wasn't awful. I didn't like the Chameleon twins in the Ultimate Universe. The Chameleon twins, I believe they're called. Wasn't a big fan of them, but the storyline itself wasn't horrendous, and then it started spiking back up in quality. I noticed, and this is a really old-fashioned saying, but I feel like it's almost hard to say. I feel like Brian Michael Bendis got a little too big for his britches. I'm an idiot, but he started having these big grand ideas that he just couldn't explain, or he was just too lazy to, and he just didn't. The Zodiac Key, how the Chameleon twins got their powers, it just skipped out on. It was, hell, like I said, he skipped 6 months. And I know I'm jumping around here, but I'm also not getting paid by Marvel to write a book, so excuse me if I'm a little critiquey. But I think my last point I want to make is to talk about Ultimate Spider-Man, issue 45. That, in my opinion, is the best issue in the series. And it has nothing to do with Spider-Man at all. It's Aunt May going to a therapist. And she airs out her problems. She talks about how she's afraid to get close to Peter because she feels like she's an omen of death. And it really adds to the mythos in a way that I feel like couldn't be added to without something almost exactly like this. And I don't know how anyone in the writing room ever came up with it, because it was so out there. It was right after a storyline. I can't remember which one. It was 45, so I'm thinking it was the second Kingpin storyline, and that was kind of cool. But issue 45 was, if you come out thinking anything about Ultimate Spider-Man, I hope you think about issue 45 and the way the characters are always there and together. And that is exactly what I feel like I liked, what I loved about this series. In addition to that, I liked the Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends issues where Bobby, Drake, the Iceman, and Liz Allen, when she became what I'm guessing is supposed to be Firebird or Firebrand, I can't remember her name exactly. But I watched when I was slightly younger the now probably 40 years old cartoon Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends, and that little tie-in was amazing. The fact that they brought it back again with the Human Torch and Bobby Drake was it just felt good to see again. And I believe that's everything to do with it. If by any chance, sorry, I'm trying to think about how to phrase this. If by any chance you ever come across a way to read these books, be it digital, that's how I read mine, physical, if you can afford to get the physical copies, do it. I do not regret spending 6 days of my life flipping through it repeatedly again and again. And I would easily do it again just to relive that feeling. There are a ton of things that I just don't think I actually thought about touching on. The Kitty Pryde relationship, loved it. The Spider-Man being hated by Aunt May, thought it was interesting. And the constant references to DC that I found hilarious. There's just so much about this series that kind of makes it feel perfect. And I want people to go away thinking that, despite problems that you're bound to have, it's amazing. And just so you know, I read this on Marvel Unlimited, and they're having a sale until July 18th of 2018. So if you see it at any chance throughout then, use the promo code GHOST and you get your first month for 2 cents. Amazing deal, and like I said, I read 160 issues in this month, so you can definitely get your money's worth. That's everything, and I just want to say, read Ultimate Spider-Man. Goodbye.